edition of High Tide Chat. I'm the sports writer Adam Brown alongside Russ Edens as we talk about Ole Miss hockey. Russ, how's it going today?
I'm pretty good. Doing well.
Just going into this week's edition, just talk about the hockey team in general.
Yeah, so the hockey team right now they're in round two of tryouts. They just wrapped up round two actually a couple days ago. They got a pretty good roster going into the season. They got a few guys on the IR. They should be back in the next month or two, so they'll have the majority of the season to play. And yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a much better season than last year. And they have some really big goals this season, and I'll get more into that in a couple weeks in another article.
Just like as you're saying, the center and tryouts. What uh, what do the coaches look for in the players that are returning?
The players that are returning, they're guaranteed a spot almost, but they just want to get them back into the field of things. A lot of them haven't been to the tryouts. They're probably just focused on class right now. They're having four or five guys come back, and they're working on just getting their way back into the game again. It's been a few months. They probably haven't skated too much, and so they just get some time on ice. And a lot of the returning guys look pretty good. They look in good shape. They're going to be good like last year as far as those returning guys. Because a lot of the guys had good seasons. It's just ultimately it didn't add up to a winning product last year. And this year, they the whole team looks ready to get back out there and improve.
For the new guys, how many spots are usually open during tryouts?
It's there's no limit to how many players you can have, but 30 is typically what they have. And I actually asked him that question a couple weeks ago on the second day of tryouts, and he said that it just depends on what they see. And so last year they had 26 guys, but that was because of roster or not roster issues, but because of injuries. And I think in the first day of tryouts, he said that he was going to go with less people, just to he didn't want to have too many guys on there and not have enough guys get ice time. And so he shortened the list, and it didn't work out very well. So this year, I think he's going to go back to 30. And so we might have. I think last year we had like five or six guys graduate, maybe seven. So we're looking at replacing those seven guys plus three or four more.
Okay, so basically about almost 10 or 7 new players.
Yeah, it could be that many.
Okay, so for that, when they're looking for like people to join their tryouts, what are some of the key factors for them to make the team compared to just
I think a lot of it is just effort and determination to get out there. Like one guy, Baines, he's not where he needs to be to compete at this level, but he's a really good guy. He's a good competitor. He's a really good student, I think. He's very mature. He's determined, like I said, and so he made the team because of his locker room presence, and that goes a long way. A 6 month season and being able to motivate other players. But I think they're looking for guys who fit their system. So hockey is sort of a more unique sport when it comes to strategy and whatnot. Like I guess you could compare it to basketball or even soccer as far as the complexity of running plays and whatnot. Because you can't stop. You have one time out the whole game. You don't huddle. You just go. And so this year they're going for a high pressured system, and I'll get in that in another article. I don't want to talk about it too much right now. But they're looking for guys who skate hard, are good skaters, have good shots, and they don't have to check all the boxes. They just need one or two tools, and they hope that they can unlock a third one in their time here. And so like a guy like his name's Kane, I forgot his first name. Or no, it's Aiden Kane. He's got a good shot. He's tall. He's not very physical because he's on the thinner side of players, but if he puts on some weight, he can unlock that physicality element to the game. Right now, his skating should improve a little bit, but he's got a good shot. His hands are good, and so he already has a couple keys or a couple things that they like, and he's fast too. So as far as just what they look for, I think it's just speed, puck handling, shot, physicality, and then from there you can break it down to how are you on the ice. Like what do you do on the ice? So you pass first, you shoot first, and they're looking for a good combination of everything to complement each other on the ice.
Okay, so just going over some stats. Just, what players stood out to you going into this year?
Yeah, last year, our best player was Connor Stoner. Unfortunately, he graduated, but he was really really good, and he's like the model player for Ole Miss. We have a lot of good defensemen who score a lot of points. But yeah, going into this season, there are several guys who I'm really looking forward to seeing. One is Richard Price. He's one of my favorite players on the team. Last year, he didn't really score a lot of goals. He had 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points. But and he played in 16 games. And we only have 18 games. So he played a lot of games. But he had 32 hits, which was probably top 90%. I'm looking at the chart right now. It's probably like top 95% of the team. I don't think anyone. Now that I'm looking at it, he had the most hits on the team. It's kind of surprising. He's a forward, and he doesn't really required to have a lot of hits, but he's a bigger guy, and so he always grinded the puck. He was running all or skating all on the ice. He was a guy who I saw give effort, to the maximum every single day, every single game, and I really respected that, and it's especially because the team wasn't very good. And so he went out there and he gave it his all every single game, and that was very noticeable to me. And this year, I think he can really put the puck in the back of the net more and find his groove going forward into his next 3 years with the team.
Okay, looking at this chart from the stats from last year, I have some questions. I understand it a little bit. What is the ESG compared to the PM?
So ESG is even strength goals, and that's when you're at 5-on-5 hockey.
Okay.
And PM is penalty minutes.
Okay.
And so the whole thing is just abbreviated, for sake of space.
Right.
But so penalty minutes, just if you trip somebody, you go in the box, shoot penalties. Even strength goal, 5-on-5 hockey, and that's where we want to score the majority of our goals, is even strength goals. And the opposite would be, shorthanded goals, which is when you're down a man or 2.
Yeah.
Last year, Connor Stoner scored a 5-on-3 goal. We were down by 2 guys, and he scored a goal, and that was miraculous. I'd never seen it before, even in the NHL. And the opposite of that would be a power play. And so last year, power play, our special teams in general weren't too great. So you'll see that there are a lot of zeros on that side of the chart.
Right.
But this year that should change with our new high pressure offense, and so that's just basically that.
What about the GC?
Oh, GC, that's a more complex stat.
Okay, I was thinking it was a complete game, but it's not.
No, it's goals created.
Okay.
It's a goals created means that it's a formula, and it's pretty complex to explain. But I'll run through it real quick. So it takes a goal, and that's 1 point. It takes an assist, and that's 0.5 points.
Right.
So 2 goals is worth 1 assist.
Okay.
And it takes that formula, and it shows how many goals each player created throughout the season.
Okay.
And so that all those numbers add up to how many goals we scored in the whole season, which is 39.
Right.
And so the formula, like I said, it's kind of complicated, but that's basically what it is. Last year, our leaders were Connor Stoner with 5.53 and Matt Warnicki with the same number. And it's more complex, but it's very useful to determine like if you wanted to see the MVP of the team was, you could look at that stat and you could get a good idea of who generated the most offense.
Is that stat also gonna be like just kind of like who your first line to your second line is?
Yeah, it could. It's also when it comes to line, it's not just about scoring. It's also about the physicality element of the game. So you don't want guys. You don't want 3 shoot first guys on the same line.
Right.
You want a guy who's going to pass first and can complement the shoot first guys. And then the third line, it's generally the the check line. It's the bigger guys, the big strong guys who are going to go out there and they're going to wear down the opponent. It's like if we were playing Alabama, Alabama's got some bigger guys. When the puck drops in the first period, they might send out their first line, their main offensive scoring line. We might send out our third line. That way we can go ahead and start hitting them up and wear them down. That way later in the game they're tired and they're not able to play as well as they usually do.
Right.
And so that's a strategy in that. But that stat is definitely very useful. The problem with it is it's just hard to explain to coaches to say here's the value of it, because not all coaches like the stats part of the game. Herbert, the head coach of the hockey team, he's been pretty good about it. I sent them these last year and it worked out very well as far as just getting the stats out. But it didn't translate to anything, unfortunately. Hopefully this year it does it really help the team. I think a lot of the issues were just with the gap between freshmen and seniors, and this year that gap's a little more fixed. It's a little more. It's smaller. So the stats, I think he can really take a look at these this season, and he can make adjustments for the team based off of them to some extent. They're only going to take you so far. You need good skill and talent. Stats can't win you a league at this level, because it's just me tracking them myself. So it's they're useful, but at this level you need skill and raw talent, and you just need a good hockey mind.
Is there going into overtime, or going into a shootout situation? How do you come up with the best players during a shootout situation to take the shot?
So I remember my favorite hockey team, my favorite NHL team is the St. Louis Blues. And so he was asked that question, the head coach of the Blues asked that question, and he said, just draw a name out of a hat. So it can be random. Obviously, you put your best guy out there first, and just go down the line. But they don't overcomplicate it too much.
Okay.
The game is pretty complex enough. They don't want to overcomplicate it. A shootout, it's 50-50 sometimes. Even less than that. It could be more dependent on the player and the goalie. But there's not really a method to it. It's just, you get lucky, you don't. It's kind of random sometimes.
The reason I asked is because I was wondering if it's one of those situations of during the heat of the moment of the game, if you look at a player, knowing that he's had a good game, you can look at his face and can tell that he can make the shot or not.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an aspect of it. If a guy scored a hat trick, game's tied going in overtime, and then still tied for that shootout, it's definitely possible that he can look at that player as someone who's on a heater in that game, and he'll send him out probably. But last year we didn't have any overtime games. It was all done in regulation. So this year, OT games are exciting. They're fun. They make for good content. They make for increased fan engagement. Fans are going to stay longer. Because it's one goal and game's over. A shootout, a little more complicated than that. But it's fun. I hope we have a couple OT games this year. It'll be fun to talk about.
As the season draws closer, just what are some of the expectations? I know we've gone over this in the past, but what are some of the expectations that you just kind of see for the team overall that you hope to see?
I hope to see at the very least a winning record, and I want to see them compete for the playoffs, which is it's not going to be easy. Because last year, coming off last year, terrible year. This year, it's in the past. I can't do anything about it now. The coaches can't, but they can adjust, and they're doing that, and they're making the necessary steps to elevate the program. And so I think this year they, at the very least, they're going to have a winning record. It might be 8-7 or 9-7. How many games they play? I'm not sure off the top of my head. But making a playoff push at some point in the season will be very fun for them. And they might be at the playoffs by 5 points by November, and then they can go on a run in January and February, and they can make a playoff push. And that's what I want to see. I want to see them push. I don't expect them to dominate the league, but I think it'd be more fun to watch them compete. And and make the big push for the playoffs, not just steamroll everybody, because that's not going to happen. That it's just it's fun to watch that other teams because they do it every single season. But for this team, we need to build up to that first. And so I would like them to go forward and build up to being a dominant program. Because if we have like this season, if we just somehow dominate the league, we can't top that next season. If we go 8-8 this season, we can top that next season. We can grow. But if we're this great program this season, we can't get higher than that. The expectations will be too high, and we might not be able to meet those goals. So this season, if we can just be over 500, be a good team, make a playoff push, then that will get people excited for the next season, and that will grow the fan base. And it's like football a couple years ago. They were really good, and then the last season, expectations, everyone thought they were going to do very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't work out, but the expectations were very, very high. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that and just building those expectations and whatnot.
Okay, from going back over this, like I know that we talked last week about like enforcers and that type of stuff. If you were gonna look at the hits and 32 hits over a season, that's a pretty good amount of hits.
Yeah.
Is that gonna be more seen throughout defensive play than offensive play?
Yeah, it's typically defensemen have more hits than forwards. And if a forward gets a big hit or gets hit has a big impact hit or receives one, then it's basically the rest of the team's job, especially the bigger defenseman, to go over and hit whoever hit him, payback, and that's where fights get started. That's why roughing happens. And yeah, it's really the defenseman's job is not just to prevent goals; it's to protect the forwards,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really a fun aspect of the game because big guys love people.
Yeah.
They love to be physical in hockey, and so they're going to do that, and they're going to take some penalty minutes, because they're on the ice for a lot longer than forwards are, because it's less skating. They go blue line to blue line, or really red line to blue line, which is not as far as forwards go, and so they're out there for less time, and so they have more hits, and they can make more of an impact on the physicality side of the game. But yeah, last year Richard Price, was a forward, and he's a pretty big guy, especially on skates. Led the team in hits, and that was pretty impressive. He was tied with Austin Pellegrino, who's on the Czech line, I believe. He's also a forward. Danny Mulligan, who graduated at 31, and we had some guys with in the upper 20s. Alex Sluff is a smaller guy. He's like my height, like 5'8", 5'9". He's a little bit thicker than I am. He had 27 hits. He's a jackrabbit out there. He'll bounce around everybody. I think he thinks he's bigger than he is, but it's fun to watch him go out there and compete. It's very fun. I really enjoy watching Luff play. And overall, yeah, hits are a pretty important aspect of the game. In the NHL, you'll see some forwards some defensemen reach over 200 hits, and that's it's not like watch the hit side of the game. It's like when the big ones happen, that's ones you see posted on Instagram and whatnot. And it's not necessarily the amount; it's more about the impacts that they have. And I pay attention to both sides of the aspect, or both sides of hits, and the quantity and the quality. And so both are important. Hits is overall a good stat to look at for defensemen. Yeah.
Is there anything you might want to add to this that I'm just not seeing right now on the stat page?
Yeah, so I just want to talk about a couple players for a second, and
Okay.
then I'll have something else to talk about. But yeah, so Matt Warnke. Matt Warnke is one of my favorite players on the team because I like face-offs. In case you know what face-offs are, face-offs are when two players, a puck is dropped on a dot or a circle, and two players fight for the puck. And so in basketball, aside from tip-off, you are given possession of the ball.
Right.
In hockey, you have to fight for it. And he was very good at face-offs. I can pull the numbers up from the second half of the season on. If you go to the face-off section, yeah. Matt Warnke, he won 58% of faceoffs, and he had 231 in the second half of the season. So from January to February, in all our games from that span, he won over half of the faceoffs.
Oh, wow.
And that's good. Basically in hockey, anything over 50% is generally good. It's a general rule of thumb, especially in the advanced side of the game. Brendan Hill, who I have not seen since December or November. I don't know what happened to him, honestly. I have to talk about that at some point. He had 73, and he did have a higher percentage, but he only had 73. So as far as qualified players go, with like 200 or more faceoffs,
Okay.
Matt Warnke had he was the best. He led the team in that stat, and he was
So basically anything under 200 is not qualifying.
yeah. In this case, yeah.
Okay.
I could lower it in like 150, and he'd still win. But he, like I said earlier, he was tied for the league or team lead in goals created. He was very good overall. He didn't have a lot of hits, but he's a bigger guy. He's tall. I think he could up his physicality if he wanted to, but I think he wants to focus on staying healthy throughout the whole season and being there for the team. Another player is Joseph Robinson. Robinson was very good for us last year. Very, very underrated in my eyes. I don't think I paid enough attention to him last season. Not a big face-off guy. He's a winger. He created 3 goals alone last season. He had 8 points. Almost 4 goals actually. He almost created 4 whole goals on his own. He not a lot of hits, but what really stand out to me is he had 16 penalty minutes and he drew 16 penalty minutes. So if he went to the box, he sent someone to the box with him.
Right.
And so he did not leave this team at a disadvantage, and that's very important to me as as someone. I'm not on the team. I work with the team, but not being stupid, going out there and playing smart hockey, and that's what he is. Robinson is a smart hockey player. I like him for that. That's on a team who took a lot of penalty minutes and wasn't very good in the power play, or the penalty kill last season. He really helped the team in that regard. Those are the most notable players, I think. Cooper Fox, Shane Wright are 2 other guys. They're forwards. They're really good puck handlers. They're good shooters. I see Bright all the time, working on deep, which is like dribbling basically. Trying to get fancy with it in the game or in practice. It's fun to watch him do that. He thinks he's really good at that. He doesn't make it very often, but it's fun to watch him do it. But I think once or twice in the season he'll go off and he'll pull a crazy move, and it'll get tossed around on social media. It'll be crazy to see him do that. But he's got good hands. Fox got a good shot. He's fast. He's a sophomore now. I think Brait's either a senior or junior this year. But those guys on the same line, I think they're on the same line. They're pretty competitive out there. It's fun to watch them. Connect on passes and whatnot. Not that one of them are really pass first kind of guys. Brait's more leaning that way, but he loves to shoot the puck too. He's about 50-50, I think. And those are the players that I really think will stand out this season. Going into the 2023-24 season. But I just want to say to wrap this up, I want to say that club hockey is college hockey, and that's a saying around the whole league basically. And that really, and I learned this past week, is that club sports in general are more competitive and more legit than people think they are. They are college sports. The club baseball team, I've got an interview from the guys on the team next week, so I'll have more information next week. They travel. They don't just play in Oxford. Play some random teams. They don't just play each other in games. They go to LSU, Vanderbilt, and they play their teams too. It's not just around Oxford. It's not intramural. Right. It's competitive. They throw in the upper 80s in there.
Yeah.
At least 80s.
Yeah.
It's competitive.
I mean, these are guys that played high school baseball, that played sometimes, most times junior college, but did not ever make the D1 roster.
Yeah, and the Ole Miss baseball team is a very high level of baseball. Yeah. It's the SEC is the equivalent of high A minor league baseball. Mm-hmm. It's very, very competitive. And so just because you don't make the team doesn't mean you're not good at baseball. It's just you're not at that level. It's a very high level.
Only a handful of percentages will make it.
Yeah, and so club sports are not only a way for people who love the sports that they play to play them for 4 more years, but it's a way to play at a high level.
Right.
It's not as high as the NCAA. I'm not saying that, but it's a way for them to compete for a little bit longer, and not just that, but to compete, like I said, at a high level, and to have fun, and to go for a trophy or two, try to win something, in rep your school. It's not just I'm gonna go here play 4 more years and just play a game a week. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna train for this. I'm gonna be the best player. I'm gonna be the best player I can possibly be. And so I was talking to some guys from my job with TPS, and they were saying that I asked them about the team, about the hockey team. They said, "Oh, it's a club sport, right?" And I was, yeah, it's a club sport, but it's club hockey is college hockey. It's not just a club sport to these kids, these players. It's it's a sport that they love, the sport that they've grown playing up, or that they've played growing up, and it means a lot to them. And it's very competitive. It's not just we're gonna go out there and just see what happens. They're gonna try. They're gonna give it their all. Like I said earlier, they're gonna practice. They're gonna train, and so it's worthy of attention. Club sports aren't just something to be overlooked. It is worthy of attention, and what makes the hockey team so special is that there is no NCAA Ole Miss hockey team. If you want Ole Miss hockey content, you have to go to them. For baseball, you don't have to watch the club team in order to watch Ole Miss baseball. And so it's the same thing for rugby. Although rugby isn't a very big sport in the U.S., hockey is. And so hockey is growing in the South. It is, and I'm very glad to be part of the process of growing the team. And I just wish the stigma of club sports would go away. It's not really fair to the players, the coaches, and club sports are worthy of attention. And yeah.
Okay, you brought up a good point, and I've actually talked to several people about this, but I've never brought it up to somebody who is a part of the team. Has the team recently talked to Keith about playing in the tap pad?
I actually emailed him recently for an interview regarding the establishment of a hockey rink in Oxford, and I messed up my word. I should have said on campus. Because he responded and he said that something like along the lines of Ole Miss is not in a position right now to help the team establish a rink in Oxford, and I should have said on campus. I should have said that. So that's on me. I also emailed the chancellor and asked him about it, and I would love to talk to them about it, but both declined to have an interview about it. So maybe I'll try again in the future. But having a rink in the tap pad would be great. I don't want to put anybody on the spotlight or anything, but I overheard that in order to have the game, the retro game, the tap pad, it's going to cost like $1 million to renovate the tap pad, because a few years ago when they switched stadiums, they gutted the whole thing, so it's all gone. And so
for the most part,
yeah. So all locker rooms, I heard that water doesn't work there. So I heard that from a pretty reliable source, and I'm going to talk to them about that as well. But if they're going to go through all this trouble to have one game there, and they're going to make plenty of money, but if they're going to go through the trouble of doing all this stuff, this for the rink or for the court and whatnot, why would they just tear it all down again? Like, leave it where it is and let's talk about the hockey rink. And it won't cost a lot of money to maintain it, especially if people use it right now. I feel like the cheerleading squad, they use it.
Oh yeah.
So it's not like just sitting there. It would be good, the money would be going to a good place. And so having the conversation to establish a rink in Oxford or on the tap pad, I think will be very good for the team. I think the campus could profit from it. I think it'd be the Ole Miss itself. I mean, and it'd be very fun for the community because they could use the rink as well. And I remember last winter they had a rink, like a small rink.
Yeah.
Over there. Ice was bad. Ice was worse than the one in the Olive Branch. It was very choppy, but I can't skate, so what do I know? Yeah, I think I would love to talk to them about that. I just wish that they would. That they're busy. Keith Carter, and the chancellor, they're busy people. I understand that, but I would love to talk to them about that.
I mean, yeah, it's just one of those situations to where, like, I'm always kind of wondered, like, if Ole Miss was going to add another D1 sport, would it be hockey or would it be gymnastics? Because, we have a decent arena
Mm.
over in Tappan that's being renovated for the retro game in November, which will be very fun to go back in there and play
Yeah.
for the men's and women's. But yeah, I think it needs to be used for another
Yeah.
sport.
So what I heard this like a year ago. I was talking to a guy on campus. He said that if they added hockey or they added gymnastics, they'd have to add a male sport. If they added hockey, then they have to add a female sport.
Right.
And so the two can go hand in hand. Now I don't know the finances of the school, and I've got no clue about that. Obviously, I'm a freshman. Obviously I don't know. I don't have access to that sort of stuff. I don't know anyone who does, but I think it's worth a shot. I think it's worth a push in my 4 years, especially. And I would love to see that. I'm gonna be here. I've been here my whole life, really. So having Reagan Oxford would be pretty cool. Having a gymnastics team would be pretty cool. I think for a lot of people in our city would be pretty happy about that.
Right.
I know that I'm fresh out of high school, and I know a lot of people who were on a gymnastics team at some point, in throughout high school or middle school or however it might be, and I'm sure they would love to watch go to an event for gymnastics. That would be great for them and for the town itself and for the students who might not get the opportunity even though they would love to be here, or students who might not come here because they want to be on gymnastics and try, and so they don't go here because of that. Maybe it's a small percentage of people, but I think it could definitely grow, and it's a fun sport to attend from what I understand.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And like I've never attended a hockey game in person before, but I've tried to watch one and I can't understand it. So it's one of those situations where people told me if you go to one, you'll fall in love with it.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those situations where I'm like, okay, I would, but like when I think about it, it's already too late to go consolidating to watch almost play.
Yeah. So the games are pretty late. Like I said a couple weeks ago, I get back at like 1:30 in the morning after games. So it's a grind for players, for myself. Not so much the coaches. Coaches, they live in Olive Branch.
Right.
But they still get back late. They have families and lives and whatnot. So it's not their full-time job. It's like a side thing that they put a ton of time and effort to, and it's very admirable to watch them and to see what they do, because it's not easy to do what they do, and they do it, and they do it very, very well as well. They're good coaches. Last year didn't work out, but they're adjusting, and that's respectable. But they're admitting that they made mistakes that season and they're fixing them. They're not just blaming the team. And so you get back late. I would like to work on that. Getting games a little earlier. Eventually, I don't know how it's going to work because they don't own the rink, so it's not really up to them. They just they talk to whoever's in charge of the rink. I'm not sure. I would like to talk to them as well. And they make a schedule with other teams as well. And it's not easy. But it's worth it. The everything I'm doing for the team, I love doing it. I want to help them as much as I possibly can. And it's fun. I really enjoy the whole process. And as far as you not understanding how the hockey works and whatnot, and people in general out here in the South, hockey's growing. In a few years, more people will know. In my 4 years at Ole Miss, and however long I stay in Oxford, I would love to expand the sport of hockey at Oxford and the South in general. And it starts here. It starts my freshman year of college. It starts now. Building an audience and getting the word of hockey out. The word sounds pretty dramatic, but just explaining hockey to people, talking about it. I talk about hockey every chance I get with anybody. I met one guy last night from Michigan. I asked him if he liked hockey. Every time I get the chance to, I'll talk about hockey with the most random people, and just try to get the word out there. I got my own custom hat for Ole Miss hockey. I know they have one, so I custom made it. So I'm advertising as much as I can, and hopefully it adds up at some point.
Awesome, man. Today's been great. Just do it again next week and see how see where we are going leading up into the season.
Yep.